Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello there. Welcome to this afternoon live stream. We got a guest once again for the first time in quite a few months. I always intended to have guests and have more people involved with the show, and so finally I've got it together. And I'm joined today by Mr. Sage Benado, who designs very high-end pedal boards. He has some great players using his gear, and Sage and I have kind of become friends through Seymour Duncan. Sage works with Seymour, and now so Sage and I are connected. So we've spoken about this for ages, Sage. So finally here I've actually got myself together to do it. So you're welcome to be a part of the show. How are you doing, Sage?
We're doing good. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Yeah. And we were just saying before how the to ignore the negativity of the internet and look at the positivity in it, and it connects like-minded people and creative people and gives us an opportunity to share. I mean, I would be the slave to a record company 20 years ago, and we don't need that now. We can just set up and go. It's great.
Yeah, I do see some positive outcome the way the technology and the world is going, helping new musicians and what we're gonna call maybe a bedroom musician or stuff like that, where they can promote themselves on their own and they don't need to wait for a multi-million-dollar contract and stuff like that. So it's exciting. Yeah,
it's great. And here we are. You're in. So whereabouts are you? You're not in New York, are you, Sage?
No, I'm in Kentucky.
Kentucky, right. Same time.
Yes, right where I don't know if you guys saw that major tornado that hit us a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it's not. We were lucky. It's about 190 miles south of us.
Right.
But funny enough, when we looked on the map, that tornado came all the way to our town.
Wow.
And bounced over our town and landed on the north side of our town and died. So we were extremely lucky.
Very lucky. Yeah, we saw that on the news. Just give us a moment, Sage. I've forgotten to open the chat. So if anybody comes on and wants to ask any questions, I'll have this open on the desktop here. And then
I'm not sure. I hope I turned off the notification sound over here. So if you hear some weird sound, let me know. I'm not sure I did it or not. So I apologize in advance.
No problem. Okay, where's the chat thing? I use Restream as well, and I think it's fantastic.
Right.
I think it's fantastic. But right.
Are we using Restream now?
Yes, we are. We're going to my Facebook and YouTube, Twitter and Twitch, and we've got 15 people watching. So hello, everybody.
Oh, that's great. Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey,
so Sage, tell us how did you start? The obvious question: how did you start out building gear? So you're like a technically minded engineer, and you love music, and you've brought these things together. So how did it work? How did it start?
The answer is no on some and yes on the other.
Right.
No, I'm not an engineer.
Right.
But I do have, and I think I told you when you were on my show last week. I'm deaf on one side since I was 4 years old.
Right.
And then I think what happened, my good ear, which is the right one, was very, very sensitive to hear a lot of little details in sounds.
Right.
So I had an understanding of tone and sound. So when I started, I actually had an idea that I wanted to put together, and then I teamed up with several engineers to create a prototype.
Right.
So when I received the prototype, I was very, very happy about it. In fact, I wanted to do it for myself, just as a player, not even as a business.
Right.
The idea that I had. But when I showed it around, I think the first guy was Brent Mason. Brent Mason, you know, probably everybody know who Brent Mason is.
Great player.
So when I showed it to Brent, he was really impressed with what he saw. And the first thing he asked me was, "Is that a business?" And I said, "No, you know, I just want it for myself as a player." And he said, "I think you should." So then all the light start coming on and the bills and stuff like that. So, so during that, the first few years, working with several engineers, I started to learn the basic of the engineering part of it, to the point where today I can fully understand when an engineer talks to me. I can really understand what they're talking about. I can really understand the again, to a certain level. You know, there's levels that you have to go to school for that. But so the first answer is like, no, I don't have an engineering background. But I do have the vision, and I do have the you know, if we call it the mindset to put things together and stuff like that. So that's how it started for me, you know. So wanted to be as a player, and then some of the high profile players told me you should make it as a business. So that's how it started. Yeah.
Interestingly, Sage, you know Lance Lerman, who from LSL Guitars, he bought a guitar on eBay and he got ripped off and the guitar didn't turn up. So he decided to make his own guitar. And he took this guitar. He took this guitar that he'd made to a guitar shop, and the guy came into the shop just on off chance within 30 minutes, and he sold the guitar. You know, and it's like, can you make a couple more? And he went, yeah, I'll make a couple more. And so, you know, exactly the same, like an experiment to build something to satisfy himself ends up becoming a business all over the world, you know. So,
is that one of the guitars you're using?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I love
Is that the strategy you were using on this weekend? Is that the one?
Yeah.
I love the tone on that. It sounded phenomenal.
Oh,
I like it.
It's great. So, so you started kind of like, you've got there's a guy there whose name slips me mind. I guess he's in the US. He's a pedal steel player, and
Paul Franklin.
Paul Franklin, and he said that it's the best sound he's had in 40 years. Okay, talking about your gear, and
you know,
Dweezil Zappa's talking this guy up. So Dweezil Zappa's talking this guy up, who's saying that with your gear he's getting the best sound in 40 years. This is why this is something to be investigated. You know, this is why I wanted to talk to you and hear what you know, what it's all about.
You know, first of all, I was very, very flattered and surprised at the same time when Paul Franklin said this is the best tone he had in 40 years. I mean, people don't know who Paul Franklin is. They really should.
Right.
I mean, he's probably one of the most recorded steel player in the world.
Right.
He's like on every single album you can imagine. And, and you know, he toured with Dire Straits in the 90s.
Yeah.
He you know, so he is a really, and for me, I always loved his tone. You know, he always used the best stuff. So when he comes to me, a little guy from now Kentucky, say, hey, this is the best tone in 40 years.
Right.
I was blown away and flattered at the same time. I wanted to say something back to your first question because I need to mention that. One of the reasons that I did it, and actually the guy who gave me the inspiration of doing what I'm doing, is Pete Cornish. You probably know who Pete Cornish is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been a big, huge fan of Pete Cornish since I was a kid. You know, and I mean, everyone in the music industry, and especially in the guitar world, they know who Pete Cornish is. I mean, he's done stuff since the 70s to anyone that we can even think of. Yeah. So, you know, he was my inspiration since I was a kid, and so that's kind of like where it went. But back to Paul Franklin. So Paul Franklin was actually the second. The first one was Brent Mason that says, "Man, this is phenomenal."
Yeah.
And then one day I got a call from Paul, and believe it or not, Paul and I have been friends forever. I mean, way before I started my business.
Right.
But I never thought it's gonna be something for pedal steel. I mean, I'm a guitar player, so it kind of like was tailored towards the guitar world.
Yeah.
Well, Paul called me one day and he said, "Sage, what is that white box that Brent is using in the studio?" I said, "Well, that's my new thing that I just developed. And why, do you like it?" He said, "This is great. I mean, I used it on the session. I took it from Brent and it works perfect."
Right.
And that was like, I was blown away. Right. So then Paul and I started to kind of like work together and see how can we make that tailored towards the pedal steel world, more defined and refined. It will work with the pedal steel. And that's how we came up with the Paul Franklin signature, the Steel Dream.
Amazing.
That signature that he's been using since 2012.
So is it an amp simulator, or is it an effect, or is it all of those things? What actually?
No.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's not an amp simulator. It's just straightforward pedals.
Right.
That they are all analog. And the reason they're, again, I'm taking the word that other people are saying, not because of me. The reason they're really good is I pay attention to small details.
Right.
So if we come up with a design, I don't just say, okay, it's working, let's release it. No, I don't do that. I really pay attention to all the details. And one of my, I'll say it's a curse and a blessing, or a blessing and a curse. I am a perfectionist.
Yep.
Sometimes it takes me 3 years to come up with a design. And the reason is I always have a list in front of me with what if. And I put all the list of what if that I can think of.
Right.
By the time that I mark off all my what if, I know that I got a perfect design.
Great.
So that's why it's very detailed. It looked after all the maybe issues or problems you might gonna face, and I'm trying to eliminate them. So and it's very clean. It's all put together by I do them myself, so it's all handmade from 0 to 100.
Superb. Absolutely superb.
Thank you.
Being in the UK, obviously, I've yet to get one of these machines and give it a go. We were talking briefly about the NAMM show on Friday night when we hooked up on your stream, and I'm gigging that weekend in Ireland, so I'm not going to be able to make the NAMM show, which I'm really disappointed by. I mean, I'm happy to be gigging, but I was really looking forward to coming out to the NAMM show and hooking up with everybody again. And it would be great to see you over there and do some demos and get the sounds out to the people who follow my channel. So, yes, sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was all I was going to say. The one question I was going to ask you is there anywhere else other than the NAMM show where people would congregate? I guess it's a strange question with COVID being the way that it is. Is anybody going to go to NAMM anyway under the circumstances?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, before COVID, there were a few shows that I was kind of like involved. One is NAMM. There's another cool show in Texas that it's actually more tailored towards the steel players.
Right. Wow.
And it's called the Steel Show.
Wow.
So I was doing that and NAMM and some other small shows. But ever since COVID, it's like everything kind of shut down.
Yeah.
And so for almost 2 years now, um, there was nowhere to actually go and showcase.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I was planning to visit England um, right before Delta started. So when we
Right.
had a little break after the first COVID started, and we kind of thought that, okay, here we go, it's probably over. I thought of flying to Europe because I got a lot of clients in Europe, a
Right.
lot of them.
Right.
And in fact, I have some in Ireland, and can't remember if in England, maybe in England too. But I was planning to do a European visit,
Great.
and that that went away. So
Yeah.
if you're not coming down here, I mean, you're probably gonna see me in England in the very near future.
Well, if you do come over here, Sage, give me the heads up because I'll do everything I can to help. Help whatever we can do to make that happen. Or to make it better, or connect you with people or whatever. For all I can do, I'll be glad to do it.
Thank you very much.
Is there's like the Dallas Guitar Show? Is the Dallas Guitar Show? Is that I've heard good things
That's another
about that. Right.
That's another show.
Right.
That's not the one I was talking about, but that's another show.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was doing the Dallas Guitar Show. I believe it was 2015, I think.
Right.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
That was a really rough time for me because my father passed away in October 2014.
Right.
And my sister was dying around the same time.
Ouch. Right.
So when I did the Dallas show, I was kind of like in a very, very bad place. And then after that, I didn't do anything because my sister passed away a year later.
Right.
And then now we got COVID, so it's so I had only one chance to do the Dallas show.
It's funny how because I was thinking about this myself yesterday, after Friday, and I was thinking to myself, so I was going to trade shows, and without wanting to go into too many details, I was kind of getting noticed at trade shows. Seymour had taken notice of me, and several other people. LSL had taken notice of me, and things in life happened. My mother got ill and died, and I got involved in a terrible record contract, which was just a living nightmare, and suddenly you forget about all of these. There's all this stuff going on in the United States, and I got kind of distracted and taken away by other life events. Then COVID hits. So I'm kind of like in this position now where I'm thinking to myself, I want to go back to the NAMM show. I want to go back and hook up with everybody, and be a part of that again. But who knows where we'll be when June happens, or maybe the Dallas show. So,
Yeah.
Sage,
Yeah.
are you like, like the components, when you buy like an SSL mixing desk or a Neve mixing desk, and you pay like $800,000 for this mixing desk, and every single component is handpicked and hand wired, and the what's the word I'm looking for? The compound of the solder is hand selected. Everything about it. This is the kind of avenue you've gone down with your gear, I guess.
Yes, that's the kind of like. So there are some components that do need my undivided attention.
Right.
That I really select them, and I test them, and then sometimes it happens when you test them, everything is fine.
Right.
By the time you complete it, they go to shit. So excuse me for my language.
I think we can say that.
We're talking about electronics, so
Yeah.
there is no 100% ever. But yes, I do select them carefully and do pay attention to every details. Yes.
Yeah. And I noticed on some of your pedal boards you've got like reverbs. Are they stereo reverbs? Is that like an analog stereo reverb?
No, they're not stereo. No, they're not stereo reverb.
Right.
And the only reason is well, two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
To create a true, what we call stereo,
Mm-hmm.
it almost have to be done in a digital way,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's a misconception in like stereo. People think that stereo means I wanted to go in those two separate amplifiers. Well, that's
Yeah.
not a true stereo. Like,
Right.
you know, mono goes on two amplifiers.
Mm-hmm.
A true stereo means that one side gets A and the other side gets B,
Right.
and you kind of like blend them together. But what you can do with my builds is you do have the option
Mm-hmm.
to go to two separate places or entities at the same time.
Right.
In
Right.
fact, you can also, so if you're a player that like to play with two amplifiers,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's a way that you can set my pedal board the analog way. Not there's no digital programming, no nothing.
Right.
That one amp will get X amount of pedals,
Mm-hmm.
and the other amp will get the other X amount of pedals.
Right.
Or you can set it where one amp will be completely dry, just your guitar, nothing else,
Right.
and the other amplifier will get your effects.
Right.
If we talking about recording, which is this is where it come very handy.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a recording, you can actually split the signal into your DAW
Right.
to receive your dry guitar on one track
Mm-hmm.
and then your effects on the other track at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
So if you play it and you're like, man, I really love what I played, I'm not happy with the effect, well, guess what? You have one track saved that it's completely just your guitar.
Right. Got you. Yeah.
So you can do that.
Mhm.
Yes.
So it's I get it. So it's like you can send back to the effect and make the adjustments if you're not happy with the sound.
Yes.
But it's analog. It's not a digital effect.
It's
It's analog. Right. Perfect. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, at the moment I'm using Thomas Blug's Amp One thing, and
Okay.
it's just something that I observed. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great? It doesn't have a stereo digital reverb in it, and I thought to myself, if only it had a stereo, because it's brilliant. And the more I use that mono kind of Fender twin kind of reverb that it's got in it, the more I realised that the digital reverb, in a lot of respects, as lovely as it can be in a studio, in a live situation, it can be a little bit too clean. It's a little bit too perfect, the digital reverb.
Yes.
So I get where you're coming from with that. It's
Yes.
that kind of Roy Buchanan reverb where it really growls, it really distorts.
Yes.
You distort the reverb, in fact.
Yes. And a lot of the players from back in the 70s and 60s, they used to use those tube Fender reverb
Right.
box,
Right.
So that's where you get the warmth and the distortion. It's because the tubes were breaking up,
Yeah.
in the reverb. So it's a completely different vibe using a nice analog reverb and like a 100% digital.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
don't people don't confused when some of us, the builder, says analog reverb, it's still a chip. It's still some sort of a digital chip. But whatever happened is it's the way that you design your signal flow to come out analog,
Right. Right.
rather
Got you.
than capture the digital and send it digital. Because the only way you can do a true analog reverb, it's either a spring or like build like a big chamber,
Yeah.
with the plates and stuff like that. So
Right.
so it's still, we're still talking about a chip that simulate a reverb, but it's done inside internally in a
Right.
mix of analog digital way.
Right.
Okay, so you still have the analog in there, and you still have a digital replication. But we are saying analog. It's because we're capturing the signal,
Right.
and we, those are calling it analog reverb, and the designers, and we are making it coming out from the chip, hitting your amplifier the analog way.
So what? In what capacity would you say you're making these pedals or these pedal boards? I've looked at, you see on your website you've got individual pedals, you've got pedal boards, you've got all kinds of different things. What's the ultimate pedal that you've got there? What's like the one that I would really want to get my teeth into? I mean, you heard me playing on Saturday night, Friday again. You heard me again.
Right.
Yeah. Which ones for what I want? Which would get me wanting to buy one of these pedals? Because I'd love to hear.
So if people visit my website, you're mainly gonna see 3 or 4 versions of the pedal board.
Right.
At the moment, I don't have single pedals. I used to have only 2 single pedals way back in the beginning on a very short run. It was the reverb and one of the overdrives. But the reason I stopped doing it's because the market is flooded with great builders. They do single pedals. Okay. For me, it was, I don't want to be another one. I don't want to be like another company that comes out and do another overdrive or another delay. I mean, there's enough out there. So that's why I focused on all-in-one. That was my main thing. Before I tell you which one is good for you, now we're fasting forward to our time. I might have to go ahead and release a few single units. So 2022, you guys will see a short run of some single pedals coming from Benado. Okay.
Right. Great.
My pride, if you ask me, from everything that I do, I think the Pro is the most versatile and the one unit that will give you everything that you want.
Right.
The Pro. The reason is this. The Pro has 5 basic effects. Okay. And the reason I went for 5 and not 4 or 6 or 8 or 7, I wanted to stay a certain size. So let me explain something so people understand. Everything that I do, there's a thought behind it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's a logic why the size of my pedal board is that size. There's a reason for it. It's not because, well, there's 5, so here we go. That's the size. My vision was always, I would love to have the option of having a gig bag where you put your guitar in there and your pedal board in there.
Yeah.
And it's all on you, and you don't have to schlep around a 50-pound pedal board and another 45 or 50-pound amplifier. I mean, we're getting older. We're not getting younger. And we're not we're not super famous, so we can hire people to do it for us. But that was my vision. If I ever gonna go and call to a gig, like maybe someone like you're gonna have a phone call. Hey Paul, we're playing down on blah 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 blah. We need a guitar player. Can you come and play? My vision is your gig bag is waiting by the door with everything inside, and you got your best guitar, your best tone, and you don't have to worry about what kind of amplifier they're gonna present you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the size of the Pro, there's 2 ways you can fit it in your gig bag, and I've done it many times flying overseas like that.
Right.
People will think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I've tried it, and it's all fine. So you put your guitar in a gig bag. Then you take my pedal board and you wrap it with, like a towel, a nice towel. And you also wrap your neck with a towel. And you lay the pedal board inside your gig bag along your neck.
Right.
Your neck is protected both ways. And you zip your gig bag and you're done.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the size of it, and then the 5 basic pedals, I'm always thinking, okay, rock and roll, blues, R&B, funk, fusion, all these kind of music. What do they normally have?
Yeah.
They will have some sort of delay. They will have some sort of a compressor. They will have a very light booster. And one of their favorite overdrives.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A reverb can be I will say the icing on the cake, because if you don't like the reverb of the amp, you have your own reverb.
Right.
Yeah. So these are the basic that will always work on multiple styles of music.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. Yeah.
So the Pro, I think, will be if for players like you or somebody who wants to be able to do any kind of music.
Yeah.
The Pro is the one to go. One of the major features of the Pro is it has a built-in patch bay.
Right.
So you can change the order of the pedals to however you want it. But let's say you have a tremolo, or maybe you have a chorus, or maybe you have like a univibe that you really love, and you want to include it in the chain.
Yeah.
The patch bay will allow you to throw in your other pedals to whatever. Yeah. So that's the long answer to your short question. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. We did a few shows a few months ago, and I kind of said, I hate 412s. I say I hate 412s. I don't care for Marshall 4x12 cabinets. Okay, we'll get you 2x12. You go down there, you walk in. What's on a stage? A 412. The one thing you ask not to have is what the higher companies supply. So I mean, you really are at the mercy of these situations sometimes. So it's perfect to have something that you can literally just bang. You tried and tested. That's your identity, and you're away. So that's brilliant. So
and one little secret with the Pro, with the scenario you just mentioned, right? Yeah. There is an option on the Pro that if you bring a really good speaker simulator,
right,
you can actually send the pedal board directly to the house mixing board.
Right.
Because I included a preamp on a separate output. There's a preamp with a volume on it, so you can actually control the amount of signal you're sending over to the mixing board, so they're not going to clip, right? But, so you have that option too.
So is it Richard Bennett who's playing with Martin Knopfler? What's his setup? What's his setup? Is he like going into a super clean amp and getting the sound from the Benado gear, or is he kind of, how do you know how he's going about creating his sound with your gear?
Yes, in fact, Richard Bennett has 2 different units. One is the Richard Bennett signature that he asked a very specific set of pedals, and it's not the Pro, it's actually a triplet, and he wanted an overdrive, a delay, and a tremolo. And then he was asking for another unit, which was just a shorter version of it with a clean boost and a tremolo. So what he does is one of the units is actually going to his Vox. And then the other one goes to the Tone King.
Wow.
So he just choose in whatever scenario and whatever settings it will work best for him on certain songs. Funny. Let me tell you a funny story about Richard and how he came to get my stuff. Again, Richard is also one of the artists that I've known way before I started the business.
Right.
And we had, and if anybody knows Richard is a very talented musician, a phenomenal player, and a very nice guy. But he is strictly pure tone.
Right. Yeah.
Your guitar and maybe the amp. He doesn't like a lot of effects.
Yeah.
And he's been like that forever. So it was years before he actually came to me and says, I think I would like to try it. And I was very honored. And with Mark Knopfler, people might gonna say, well, why Mark is not using your stuff? Well, Mark been in the business forever.
Yeah.
And Mark probably has closets full of maybe pedals that people send him. But Mark also is a very pure tone kind of a guy.
Most
that probably will use maybe just a delay and the amp, or maybe just some sort of, but that's it,
Yes.
But I was very flattered. It was about 4 years ago, or it's almost 5 now. Oh my God.
Yeah, no.
That Richard got his first unit.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, Sage, listen, I can't promise anything because Mark will have to decide if it's okay to use the pedal board or not. Because Mark is very, very keen on tone, So he said he might not going to like it and he's going to tell me no.
Yeah.
So the fact that Richard Bennett is playing live with Mark and my pedal boards are on stage is because Mark gave it the 2 thumbs up to go ahead. And in fact, before COVID, the last tour, and that was it was actually cool for me. My pedal board was the only effects on stage through the entire tour of 2019, I believe.
I listen to Martin Knopfler records from Dire Straits right up to the stuff that he's doing today, and he produces them and he mixes them. He takes care of everything. So really, for him to approve that, it's massive. It's massive.
It is, and to me, it's almost like he's playing it, because if it's on his stage and it plays on his music on his live show,
right.
It means that it's good, and he okayed it.
As a producer, he's seeing that as a part of the mix. It's massive.
Yes.
It's massive.
It is, and
wow.
Yeah, it is. I'm flattered. Yes.
So what are you
really surprised.
So what are you planning when we get out of lockdown? Where you've got some new products on the market, I mean, I totally resonate with what you're saying about the amount of time you spend preparing and designing. If I've got like 3 albums here, almost ready to release, and Greg said something about this the other night. What's the point in releasing an album when you've got no gigs? So, but the mixing and the going over it and going over it and going over it and is everything. I don't want to press this, commit this to a CD, and then like 6 months later just say, if only I'd checked that hi-hat one more time or the kick drum or the bass guitar, just drive yourself nuts. So have you got anything like an immediate ready to go that you're going to be launching?
Yes, in fact, during lockdown or during COVID, I started working on some new designs that one of them was supposed to be released this past Christmas.
Right.
But one of the things that I was faced with is lack of inventory, and the main thing that I am lacking right now is enclosures.
Right.
My enclosures are not the normal enclosures than any pedal that you know. Most pedals are like a die cast or aluminum.
Right.
My enclosures are steel, like
Right.
a real steel enclosures.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since COVID started, I had my original metal shop quit doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was forced to find a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to finding a new one, it means we need to work on the design, and they need to have a CNC machine, blah 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 blah, and all that
Yeah.
story. So
Yeah.
I'm in a point right now that this is the only thing that I'm missing in my inventory.
Right.
My clients are suffering from it. I have clients
Right.
waiting for almost 7 to 8 months right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't release it. So yes, so I do have a few designs that I've been working on that are waiting to see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really hoping that we can somehow, maybe the second quarter of 2022, we'll see them out.
Yeah. I find that, one of the things that I wonder if you find this as well, but I have to listen to music that I can't relate to. I listen to a lot of. I'm not a jazz player. I love jazz, and I fake jazz. But I can't play classical music. Yeah, it's like, oh, that sounds jazzy, and then you hear Joe Pass, and it's like, oh Jesus. But like,
I know.
And I listen to a lot of classical music. It's not specifically for this reason. I genuinely love classical music. I love the classical music, And the thing is if I listen to a guitar player, whichever guitar player it may be, especially if it's in rock, blues, country, I'm thinking, well, what's a Telecaster? He's on the bridge pickup. Sounds like he's going through a Fender Twin. He's got a compressor. And I can't help myself. I have to dissect it. And so listening to Alfred Brendel play a Beethoven piano concerto, I completely I don't know what's happening, so I'm free.
Right.
I'm free to just let the music come in, and just gear drives me nuts. It's like, oh, he's playing a 3-3-5. Oh, he's playing the rhythm. God Almighty, will we ever be free?
It's funny because that's sometimes what I do over here in my shop when I building and soldering. I put in classical music because am I gonna hear David Gilmour on the other side, and it almost like there's an emotion going through you. Okay, I gotta pick up the guitar and maybe just play that and full, and then you find yourself, well, I'm working. I need to work. I can't do that. So yes, I know I sometimes choose something that I have no direct correlation with, and normally it's classical music, which I love.
Yeah.
But it just gives me that. I don't know anything about violins. I don't know anything about trombones and all that. I love them to hear them.
Yeah.
So I can really relate to what you're saying.
Because Eric Johnson said that he can tell what battery is in a distortion pedal. And and I thought to myself, please, and he means it. He reckons he can tell which battery is in a pedal.
Oh my God, man, that's like going into details.
How can you enjoy?
Maybe I need to hire that guy.
How can you enjoy? I don't know. Of course, he's brilliant. He's a master and all of that. But I mean, I thought I was bad. So is that a Duracell? Right. He's got a Duracell in his Wawa.
That would drive me nuts.
Yeah. It's OCD.
Yeah, that will drive me nuts. But there are people that are like that.
Yeah.
They're literally going to sit down. That's a AAA, Duracell 1985 release.
As a friend of mine here in the area who I've known a long time, and he's a classical nut. Great pianist, plays classical stuff, and he's very well read and he relays these pieces of information about the classical composers, and you know, the same Mozart would write a piano concerto in his mind, and when he went to write it down, it was complete. So
Yeah.
he didn't have to change it. It was already done.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So while he's writing it down, he's composing the next one at the same time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can say that one's finished, and I'm writing that down.
Yep.
And this one is new at the same time. That goes beyond anything I could possibly comprehend at any time in my lifetime.
It is, and if you look at some of these composers, it's like it's that kind of brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know where it came from. When I went to music school, and we talked about classical music. There's a story about Mozart that when he was a kid, his father taught him basic.
Yeah.
And the story was, if the story is right or not, I'm not sure. I'm sure it is.
Mm-hmm.
That every single night, his father, he sent Mozart to bed, and his father opened the piano and he played do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and he left it there. And then Mozart would come down, do, and just completing it. I'm sure I'm out of tune, but that's how he started. You know.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, wasn't he 5 years old when he wrote his first opera or something?
It's
I'm 5.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
So,
I'd heard that story as well. I'd heard it's that his mother used to play the C major scale on the piano in the morning and leave the C off the top of the scale. If he wouldn't get out of school if he wouldn't get out of bed for school in the morning, his mother would play the 7 notes and she'd leave the last one off, and he had to come downstairs and play that last note because it irritated him to not have it. So I mean, I listen to that stuff pretty much all the time now. There's some great stuff that I listen to from the oldies, Martin Knopfler and Dire Straits being one. All the great classic rock stuff. I still listen to that, but I've really got into classical music. I would say in the last 30 years, I've more and more got into classical music, but in the last kind of 10 years, it's kind of taken over. It's taken over.
Bet. And my father, when I was a kid, my father was trying to push classical music on me, and as a kid, I was like, nah, I'm not interested. Mm-hmm. But as I grew older, I started to appreciate it more and more, to the point that I love it. I mean, I can sit down here and just listen to like heavy symphonies by Berlioz or Mahler, or and it really gets me. Mm-hmm. I can tell you who, on a modern day, I mean, although is not considered a classical composer, but it is. He composed for film. Ennio Morricone.
Oh yeah, brilliant, superb, amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story that probably not a lot of people don't know, and that actually got me to appreciate the movie even more when I learned the story. Have you seen the movie Once Upon a Time in the West?
A long time ago. Western? I have to be honest, it was a while ago, but I did see it. Yeah. Charles
Bronson and Henry Fonda and
yeah.
Okay. Do you know that the first movie in history, and probably the only movie that was directed according to the music?
Wow.
Ennio Morricone wrote the music before the movie was even filmed, according to the story.
Right.
And Sergio Leone, all the shots through the whole movie were in tune with the music. He actually directed the movie according to the music. So if you're gonna watch the movie again today,
yes,
you will start noticing stuff that, for instance, there's one thing. I will send you the link later on. That that put chills in your body. There's the last standoff between Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda. at the end of the movie. And this whole scene was just music
Right.
and the camera going. And every little detail on that 9 minutes shot was in sync with the music. There's one shot over there that shows Henry Fonda drop his jacket, and it hits the floor exactly when the drum comes.
Right.
I mean, it just. So when you see that now, knowing the story,
Right.
that movie gets a whole new perspective.
So he's visualized the movie from listening to the music, basically.
You mean Sergio Leone?
Yeah, he's listened to the music, and then he's visualized the movie from listening to the music.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. It's amazing.
Yeah, me too. And I found out about it about maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And Ennio Morricone, he composed it to the script. He did not have normally today what they do when they compose to a film, they got the complete movie on the big screen, and then they just compose the music.
Right.
This thing was done the other way around. He had the script, no movie, no nothing.
Yeah.
And he composed the whole movie before it started.
There's something about Enrico Morricone,
Ennio Morricone.
Ennio Morricone, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
His ideas, there's like a spark in his ideas. Yeah. There's like an originality. I mean, the obvious ones are the 3 Clint Eastwood movies that he did, Good, Bad and Ugly and Fistful of Dollars and stuff like that.
Right.
I think those movies are like 50% success, 60% success because of the score,
Yes, absolutely.
If you took the music away from those films, I remember I was doing some teaching in some school with these kids, and we were talking about, like the Darth Vader, the ding 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 ding. So that's Darth Vader, and it's like, so as a very basic starting point. That theme is Darth Vader. You hear that music, Darth Vader's going to come round the corner. But dig in the semitone thing in Jaws, the shark's going to appear.
Yes.
But you can go so much deeper than that, and at the end of the day, you can have nothing happening in a movie, absolutely nothing happening visually in a movie, and 99% of it is what the music's doing.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's actually what's happening on that Once Upon a Time in the West, the last duel, is nothing is happening. The camera is focusing on their eyes.
Right.
Between the two. But man, the music that's going on there, it just, I'll send you that link for the last duel later on after we finish, so you'll see what I'm talking about. So when you're going to watch that movie again, you will get, there's another movie that does the same thing about what we just talked about. I mean, it's a different composer, Hans Zimmer, right?
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
He's another great composer. Have you watched the Prince of Egypt?
Nope.
Do you know? Nope. It's kind of like a animated. It's animated movie.
Didn't see that movie. Yeah. No.
Great movie. The score on this movie is great, but there is a scene over there that without the music, it means nothing. And I've tried it once when I had the movie played in my TV, and I turned the volume down to see if I'm getting the same reaction.
Yeah.
And oh boy, it wasn't. But there's a scene over there when Moses parted the Red Sea. Okay? The music on that part was just phenomenal. When you watch it and you listen to the music, I remember my hair was standing. And it's freaking animated. I mean, it's like, come on, it's animated. But the vibrations I had in my body with that music, it was just phenomenal.
Well, that's what it's all about. The vibrations is what it's all about. And there was a scientist talking on Jack Stanton says they love the Steel Dream. Mark Hopkins says Mark Hopkins says Sage is a wizard. Hello.
Oh,
Hello, Paula.
they are
Salute.
very,
And somebody has
they're
said
very generous.
something.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
somebody said something from Chile, which I think is hello. Pardon me, I don't understand the language. But oh, absolutely. And there's this scientist on the TV here in the UK, and he basically said, if you rub your hands together and you generate heat, every particle within the universe has to move one increment in order to compensate for that change. And I remember thinking, this bloke's this bloke's a serious professor, and he wouldn't say that if he didn't believe that was the case, right? So you start thinking, rub your hands together, you generate heat. Every particle in the universe moves an increment in order to account for that change, right?
That's crazy.
Absolutely mental, right? So then you say to yourself,
Yeah.
so what happens when an orchestra plays a Mozart symphony
Yep.
or a Mozart piano
Yeah.
concerto? If you've got
Yeah.
40 musicians in a cathedral,
Yeah.
it's reaching the
Yeah.
furthest flung corners of the universe in some capacity.
Yep.
And you think to
Yeah.
yourself,
I-
that is insane.
It is insane, and there's so many things that we can't explain that we kind of like it's part of our lives anyway, and we take it as it is. But when you start think about it, it's pretty mesmerizing,
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way I see it. But
I think we've been kind of, we are being distracted by and large triviality and tedium,
Yes.
the triviality of a Saturday night TV show when the Vienna Philharmonic playing a Mozart piano concerto is reaching the furthest flung corners of the universe. How long does it take to get there? It's like, no, I'm gonna phone in and vote for the guy who can juggle cats.
Yep. Yep. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff that it's really mesmerizing when you start thinking about it, and the effect that it has either on you or others or anything that it's out there. When you start thinking about it, it's like, oh my Lord, it is making some sort of changes or adjustments on. For a lot of people that listening, where we talk about Ennio Morricone and then we mentioned Mark Knopfler. If you guys are a big fan of Mark Knopfler, a lot of his early movie scores that he did, he's a huge fan of Ennio Morricone. So if you listen to some of his music scores, you'll see the influence of Ennio on Mark composing part. Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that. You said that you mentioned the other night about the second track of Local Hero of the soundtrack. I'll be looking for that. I'll be digging that out most certainly. So I mean, I could sit here and talk. Pardon?
No.
I was just saying I could sit here and talk and go on and on for an absolute eternity. But I mean, let's continue the conversation at another time, at a later date. I mean, we've been talking now. That's an hour. My God, that's an hour.
Wow. Is it?
Yes.
Wow.
It's incredible.
It feels like it happened like 15 minutes ago.
15, 20 minutes, I know. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I really want to get over to the United States, Sage, and I am. It's a fact. It's not about wanting to. I will come back to the United States when it's.
Welcome over here every time you come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make NARM, but once again, what is NARM actually going to be? I mean, is anybody going to go? Do you
I
think
don't know. If you ask me, if things are not going to slow down with COVID and all that, I'm not going. And people can hate me for that. That's okay, but I don't want to take I don't want to take the chance. My wife has an autoimmune disorder, so I can't risk her.
Right.
So if things are not going to slow down, I don't see myself at NAMM in June. But we'll see what happens.
Do you think it could be cancelled? I mean, is it because we were talking about some gigs in November with the agent in the US, and they're saying
you talk about next November.
Yeah, and the agents, they're saying we're not sure if maybe it's going to be 2023.
Here's what I think. And again, I'm not an expert, but this is just my observation and my kind of seeing things the way they are. When COVID started, the airline industry said it will be 2024 before we go back to normal. Okay? To whatever it's called normal. If Omicron is going to start to die down, and nothing will emerge in the next few months like a new one, I believe that we are going to start seeing some sort of normality towards next summer. And because COVID is here to stay. I mean, that's a fact.
No doubt about it.
And it's going to be here just like the flu.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't think there's any way around it. So we learned to live with the flu for almost 100 years. We're gonna have to learn to live with that. So if nothing, and I think this is how the music industry is also looking at it right now. So answering the NAMM or maybe live shows that you guys are talking about. If by springtime we're not seeing like a new crazy variant coming across, I think we're going to start seeing things semi-normal. So live shows will start happening. I still see they maybe going to have some sort of restrictions in live shows for a while. I do think so. So I don't know about NAMM if they're going to cancel or not. They're probably going to cancel if it's going to be crazy like when Delta happened and now the Omicron. I mean, I don't think they're going to open up NAMM if there's going to be only a percentage of people coming in. It's going to be a waste of money for them.
It's a big show for nobody to show up.
Yes, I think one of the reasons they canceled Summer NAMM is because it was an empty show this past June. It was literally empty. But I think they might have learned a lesson. I think, So
all we can do is wait and see. It's all we can do, But listen, Sage, we'll stay in touch and we'll speak again, I'm sure, in future. And let's see what happens next. And I'll see you in America. And if you come to the UK, I'll see you in the UK. Give me fair warning, and we'll help get something set up.
Absolutely, and I'm honored being on your show. Thank you for having me, and let's continue to do the good thing for one another.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yes.
Sincerity, authenticity. This is what it's all about. This is what it's got to be soul. If it hasn't got the if it hasn't got the soul, I don't want to hear it.
Absolutely right. 100%. Yes.
Okay, Sage. I'll tell you what. I'll close the show. I'll stay there, and we'll talk again after I close the stream, kind of thing. Just to wind things up. So okay, everybody who's listening already knows. My pleasure. Thanks very much, everybody. I'm going to end the stream. I'll be back playing live on Sunday night as usual, 7:00, and 7:00 UK time. Sage, thank you very much for taking part in the show. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Great to share stuff with. There's Seymour Duncan just popped up. Good evening, Seymour. Or good morning, Seymour.
Hey, Seymour. Gosh, we didn't mention him through this entire hour. How in the world we did it?
Yeah. Seymour.
Is he saying something?
He just said night, mates. I think that's Seymour speaking English.
Seymour lived in England in the 70s, right?
Yeah. I think that's how we hooked up with Jeff Beck, is it not? He met Jeff Beck
Yes.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember
Very
being,
cool.
I remember being in this. I remember being in the shop in Santa Barbara, and Seymour was screwing these pickups into my Telecaster, and he says,
Yeah.
Roy Buchanan loved these pickups. So does Jeff Beck. And I thought, I've got a feeling I'm going to like them as well. You know. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, you know, Seymour is like a second father to me. You know,
Great.
I've known Seymour for 20, gosh, it's almost 23 years now.
Wow.
So he's like a second dad to me, you know. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
every guitar on
legend.
that, more just about 70% of the guitars on that wall behind me have got Seymour's pickups in. So, yeah.
Hey, you know, I mean, there are people that they know what they're doing and what they do is best. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
See-
there's you know, just like Cornish, there's a reason why people use Seymour Duncan pickups, you know.
Yeah.
They
Totally.
know what they're doing.
I just want to say, Seymour, if you're still tuned in, I emailed you yesterday or the day before, and I've got 2 or 3 email addresses for you, and I'm not sure which one you will be receiving on. So, Seymour, if you did get those emails, let me know. You know.
Send me whatever you have in case it didn't get to him. I'll forward it to him.
Yeah, I would love to get him on the show, Sage, and ask him about some stuff as well. You know, I want to. Seymour, he's got it. Okay, he got it. Okay, Seymour, we'll catch up shortly. But I had Mark Egan on the show, who played bass for Pat Metheny. I had Lance Lerman on the show, who builds the guitars. A friend of mine who was at the Band of Gypsies gig and the Woodstock Festival, so he saw Hendrix play the Star Spangled Banner and Machine Gun. He came on the show and he talked about all of the. He was just a friend of mine was in New York at the real height of the Woodstock Festival, and Dylan and the Mamas and the Papas and Zappa and the Mothers and all of that kind of stuff. So I've had a few guests on, and I've kind of you know, it's like there's a certain amount of responsibility and not stress, but responsibility having guests on. And having it, if something technically goes wrong with the stream while I'm sitting playing the guitar, it's kind of I'm the one who looks like a chump, you know. But when you've got when you've got guests on, you don't want things to go wrong. So I've been kind of hesitant, but I think this is the having you on Sage is kind of this is the first of many, I think, you know. So. Anyway.
I mean, it felt very natural and great for me. So I mean, I hope the people out there that listening or seeing us right now enjoying it. I mean, I had a good time. I had fun.
Great.
So it's all what it's all about. Just having a good time.
We haven't gone below 15 viewers, Sage. We didn't go below 15, so that's not bad. I mean,
that's good. Well, you know, it's pretty early over here. I mean, it's, you know,
true.
I don't know if people are still sleeping or not, but
this is kind of the time here, 5 o'clock, people are heading home from work, you know. But I mean, it peaked at 24, and the lowest was 14, I think. So anyway, Sage, brilliant. We'll stay in touch. We'll see you again. Anything we can do, anything I can do, anything I'll be a part of, anything, and vice versa. You know, let's keep going.
Absolutely.
So okay, everybody, say cheerio to Sage, and we'll all meet up again shortly, I'm sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Hang on, Sage. I'll come back to you. I'll just close the show. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Bye bye.